Think of the Merkabah as your very own spacesuit. It is an energy field that is always active at higher dimensions. There's a belief system that the Merkabah becomes activated, that once you thoughts, emotions, and energy body ascend, there's a belief that once your energy and mind, body, and emotions, all these align, your Merkabah becomes activated. It is the chariot that carries you to other dimensions. The truth is, the Merkabah is active. It's just active in higher dimensions. But if you are living in lower dimensions, like third or fourth dimension, chances are that you will not be aligned with your Merkabah. See, the Merkabah is always active. That is why when someone ceases to be in this physical life, they come into alignment with their Merkabah. So that's the key. It's about coming into alignment with it rather than activating it, because it's not something that can be activated with your mind. You must first, in a way, get your mind out of the way in your ego and let your emotions be grounded and healthy to truly open up and align your energy centers to become one with the Merkabah. Now, it was believed that this is how many ascended masters traveled through different dimensions. It's also how our soul travels. That is true. Can you activate the Merkabah in this lifetime? Yes. Since it is active, you come into alignment with it. Why is the Merkabah necessary for our existence? Well, if you're living in third or fourth dimension, you will not even think about the Merkabah. For many people who generally are also aligned, they might not be thinking about the Merkabah, but they might be accessing it. They just might not really understand what it really is in the intellectual sense. And how do we align ourselves with the Merkabah? Well, this is where Kundalini comes into play. It's a big aspect of Kundalini awakening in the beginning is going through the unconscious. Is in this lifetime, and I want to point this out, in this lifetime there is a sort of death of the old side of us and a rebirth of the new side of us. And I mean this in this lifetime. That's the whole point of having a Kundalini awakening, is to first get through this rebirth. And as you do, you begin to open up more and more portals, energetic portals, and ascending. So what this does is the Merkabah can truly be activated once we are in alignment, our chakras are in alignment. So when we have a Kundalini awakening, our heart chakra opens. And the heart chakra, and we know this in terms of science, has the highest energy activity in the body, right? It's right here in this area right here. And why this is important to understand is, as I mentioned, the Merkabah is an energy body, a light body. It's your very own spaceship. And so as you integrate this energetic aspect of your body and you open up your heart, you can now begin to access the Merkabah. But it is then and only then that you can actually have access to it. Now, can you use the Merkabah in this lifetime to travel, to complete astral travel? Yes, you can. During your dreams, yes, you can, to explore even deeper into not just human consciousness, but the greater consciousness, right? The consciousness that is not just part of your own consciousness as it's been programmed in this lifetime, but the unconscious as it belongs to the greater consciousness. So the Merkabah, as your own very spaceship, allows you to travel beyond what you have ever imagined. But what's important to realize that it's not necessary for you to think about it, to dwell on it, because you cannot force an alignment with your Merkabah. You can only come into this alignment by living in a certain way. And many ascended masters recommend living by certain principles of well-being in this life, including from health of our physical body to the thoughts that we have and our emotions. And as we do, and we start to become aware of our energy body, then we can really activate the Merkabah. One really interesting aspect to mention, as it is related to Kundalini as well, is that the Merkabah is in balance of both the feminine and the masculine. The feminine and the masculine is how creation happens. You need the chaos of the feminine and the order of the masculine, right? And these two constantly spinning together, it is how creation is meant to be. It's the same thing with the energy moving through our body in Kundalini awakening. And meeting the Shakti, meeting the Shiva, there's a creation, the new you, right? The new you now reborn with a brand new awareness of who you are. And this is when you become aware of the Merkabah, because the shape of the Merkabah itself is these aspects of you energetically, always in alignment. Now let's address the Merkabah and soul travel. The different ways that we live this lifetime affect the future lifetimes that our soul reincarnates in. What do I mean by this? Well, if we've lived in a level of peace and joy in this lifetime, and we've achieved a certain level of enlightenment, our soul can ascend into the next lifetime with a new sense of clarity, right? But what happens is if we are struggling in this lifetime and we feel too bound by and too identified with certain negative thoughts and emotions and patterns, we start to trap ourselves in. And because the soul has decided to come into this physical reality, it also has accepted the fact that we have this physical, mental, emotional body that it is in constant dance with. When we align with our soul, when we understand how our thoughts, emotions, and energy body create our reality, then we are able to understand how our soul is communicating with the greater cosmos. So for example, if let's say you lived this lifetime and you've been struggling emotionally, and you decide to end your life because you are too confused, you cannot handle reality anymore, all the pain that you've experienced feels like it's swallowing you up, and you say, okay, I'm done here in this physical reality. So because you are leaving at a certain energetic level, you might have a harder time accessing your Merkabah, which allows you to now ascend to the next level, to travel cosmically. So you'll probably reincarnate back into, let's say, you're in a human life, in another human life with that same mental, emotional pattern set up. And until you work that through, you will continue to go back and relive it. You might have watched the movie Groundhog Day, where the main character lives the day over and over until he figures things out. And it takes a while. Now, this might seem as torture to some because you probably are living in this pattern in your life now, right? Which is why often we feel this utter sense of wanting to give up in this physical life, because we feel that we are living the same thing over and over and getting basically the same results. And it feels like this endless negative loop. The opposite is also true, where you figure it out, and then this endless positive loop, which is what the main character figures out, and he's able to, in a way, ascend to the next day and the next experience. And so in the same way, the soul has accepted this universal truth. And so what does this have to do with the Merkabah? Well, what it means is that because the Merkabah allows us to travel between different dimensions, as we align with it, as we align with the Merkabah, it allows us to travel into all these different dimensions. But if we fail to align with it, then we are back to living in this physical reality, in this dimensional reality. And until this alignment is set in place, it is then and only then that we are able to access the Merkabah. Is it possible to see someone's Merkabah activated? Yes, it is possible. When someone is living in very high frequencies, it is possible to see the Merkabah surrounding their energy field. So, let's say that we have aligned with the Merkabah in this lifetime. What does it mean for us now? Well, because the Merkabah is tapped into a higher dimension, it is a balance of the feminine and masculine. It can allow you to not only harmonize yourself to this greater frequency, but also to begin manifesting anything that you truly desire. When you truly come into alignment with the Merkabah, your soul also gains a sense of true freedom. For example, we all reincarnate in this lifetime until we reach a level of pure beingness and pure lightness, and then we become just source. So as you become more and more aligned with this aspect of you, you become aware of this greater sense of freedom, and you begin to experience it in this lifetime. And so it aids your enlightenment in this lifetime, and thus your reincarnation pattern becomes ascendant. Why are some aware of the Merkabah and others aren't? Well, the Merkabah is part of our unconscious. Unless you awaken certain aspects of you, you will not become aware of it. Now, you can become aware of the Merkabah in a very intellectual sense. Maybe someone mentioned it to you, maybe you watched a video about it. But to truly become aware of the Merkabah and to actually begin to sense its existence is a very, very personal experience that only you will truly know. If it's something that is true to you at this point in time, or if it's something that you can allow yourself to get there. Otherwise, it can simply be an intellectual understanding, which is why when we go through Kundalini awakening, we might actually become aware of the Merkabah. We might not think of it as a Merkabah. We might just be seeing certain patterns, certain energetic patterns through our meditations, like the shape of the Merkabah. We might be seeing it in the environment around us, and we might even be feeling our own energy shift. And the reason why this happens when we get past a certain point in our Kundalini awakening is because of awareness of this unconscious aspect of us. And as this unconscious aspect of us comes to be, then we become aware of the Merkabah. It is not necessary for you to become intentionally aware of the Merkabah during this spiritual journey that you are on. Oftentimes we can understand things without having an intellectual understanding of them, and that is more important. This experiential existence is much more important than the intellectual one. So if you are living in alignment with higher dimensions, and you sense that by the way that you are feeling, the way that you are manifesting the reality around you, the pure sense of self that you are experiencing from your soul, then you know you are on the right path. And even if you feel that you might not be on the right path, that's all right, because there's guidance for you. And as you follow this guidance, you'll find yourself discovering more and more about you, the greater universe, and aspects of the universe as they are becoming alive in you.